Very warm welcome. Myself, Dr.M.Rajalakshmi, Assistant Professor, Bharat Institute of Law, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. In this presentation, we are going to discuss about the topic phonetics. So we are going to see various technical terms and their meanings. And how students can use these technical aspects and understand each and every sound in the language, and this will enable them to use the words with right pronunciation and also right usage. So as I have said, we are going to see various technical terms, different terms. First one would be phonetics, which is followed by phonology. So we are going to deeply analyze about these two terms, phonetics and phonology. So we are going to see first what does it mean by phonetics, followed by phonology, and what is the major difference between these two technical terms, phonetics and phonology, and what are all the various branches that are involved when it comes to phonetics and phonology. So this is what we are going to see in this video lecture. So phonetics, both phonetics and phonology. It is actually the way vowels and consonants of English language are articulated. How these vowels and consonants are articulated. So that is the actual meaning. That is the actual meaning. Now we'll see the definition or technical meaning of this word phonetics. Phonetics. In this word phonetics, phone, a quite common word, phone. So first let us see what is the meaning of this common term phone. So the word phone means sound. The word phone means sound. So the remaining part, tics. In the word phonetics, tics means scientific or systematic study of something. So phone means sound and tics means scientific and systematic study of something. So we can say that phonetics means scientific or systematic study of human speech sound. The first slide itself, we have said study of vowels and consonants. Before moving on to deeper into the subject, first it deals with the study of human speech sounds. So the sounds that human beings produce, the way different sounds that we produce, how they will be categorized, what are all the various parts that are involved, how these sounds are produced. While producing these sounds, what are all the factors that take place? What are all the organs that are involved when we speak? So this study completely scientifically or systematically study about all these speech sounds. So phonetic is generally a study of all human speech sounds, how they are produced, transmitted, and received. So whatever I have explained is being compressed into three major categories. How these speech sounds are produced, how they are getting transmitted, and how finally they are getting received. Once they are produced, only if it is getting received in the proper way, then there is some usage in producing such sounds. So these three aspects are important when it comes to the study. So phonetics means actually it is a scientific and systematic study of human speech sounds. So as I have mentioned earlier, we are also going to see the various branches of phonetics. So we have mentioned what is the actual or real meaning of the term phonetics. We have divided the word into two halves and we have seen the meaning. It is a scientific and systematic study of human speech sound. But this topic, phonetics, how it could be divided into various branches. That is what we are going to see now. So this is being divided into three main branches. One is articulatory phonetics. The second one is auditory phonetics. The third one, acoustic phonetics. So if you understand all these three branches, the study of phonetics becomes very simple. So the basics, if you understand thoroughly, we can go deeper and deeper into the study. So that is why much stress is given on the basic aspects of this topic, phonetics. So what does this articulatory phonetic means? This actually means how speech sounds are produced. How speech sounds are produced. That is discussed under the branch articulatory phonetics, articulation, articulatory phonetics. Sounds are how produced, right? So moving on to the second aspect, auditory phonetics. The word itself we can easily identify. It is talking about how sounds are received. Earlier, how sounds are produced, that is articulatory. In the second part, how sounds are received. As I have mentioned earlier, once you produce something, once you say something, it should be received in the right sense. Only then there is some usage of producing certain sounds, or in other words, speaking something. Right? So these two branches, like producing sounds and receiving sounds. What is this third branch, acoustic phonetics? What does it mean? That means how sounds are transmitted. Okay. So you may produce a sound, you may say something, and somebody else in front of you or over phone, they may receive it. But how they are receiving it, how the sounds are getting transmitted. This acoustic phonetics that deals with this aspect, that how sounds are getting transmitted. So production, transmission, and receiving. So right way of producing, right way of transmitting allows the right way of receiving words, sounds, and information. So these are the three branches of phonetics: articulatory phonetics, auditory phonetics, and finally acoustic phonetics. So we'll see in a detailed manner what do you mean by articulatory phonetics. It is concerned with the position of and movements of the various organs that are involved in producing the speech sounds. Generally, a question would be asked whenever we teach this subject. Like what are the various parts, various organs that are involved while producing speech sound or while we speak? For this, general answer would be mouth, lips. Some may even mention tongue, but it is not so. In the coming slides, we are going to see what are all the various organs, external, both external and also internal organs, that are involved in producing such speech sounds, producing words, producing sentences. So that we will see in the coming slides, right? So this articulatory phonetics is concerned with the position and movement of lips, we can say tongue and other speech organs in producing speech. It analyzes how the various speech sounds are articulated by vocal organs. These organs which are helpful in producing speech sounds are known as vocal organs. So this study, it analyzes how these sounds are articulated, what are all the parts involved, what are all the various methods involved in producing such sounds. See, for instance, certain sounds, we close our mouth tightly and suddenly we release the air. By releasing the air, we produce certain sounds. Certain other sounds, we use our nose to produce. Certain sounds, we open our mouth broadly and produce. So this study, that is articulatory phonetics, the studies all these aspects, how these speech sounds are produced, the various positions are, the movements of the vocal organs. So this is the actual study, that is what is analyzed under the topic articulatory phonetics. Moving on to the second branch, auditory phonetics. As I mentioned when I was explaining the three branches, yes, it is in the receiving end. So the organ obviously involved in this process, we can easily say our ears. So auditory phonetics is the study of hearing. That is not only what we hear. Somebody is saying something, we are using our ears and we are hearing them. It doesn't stop with that. And the perception of the speech sound. What does it actually mean? It's also analyzed. It is not that some sound is produced, you are listening to the sound or you are hearing to the sound using the ardent ear. It doesn't stop with it. How it has been perceived, that also matters a lot. Then only the meaning is fulfilled. It becomes complete. So auditory phonetics talks or deals with the study of hearing and the perception of speech sounds. And the third branch is acoustic phonetics. So this branch of phonetics is concerned with the properties of sound waves. So when I was explaining the first branch, I said for certain letters, certain sounds, we open our mouth widely. For a certain sound, we close our mouth. Suddenly, we release the air and produce those sounds. Some sounds, we use our nose. So this study analyzes how these sound waves are produced. It studies the physical properties of the speech sound when it's getting transmitted. That is important. While transmitting, what are all the physical properties of speech sounds? Between the mouth, that is from the speaking end to the receiving end, between the mouth and the ear. The process of speech sounds and the physiological production. That is what is meant by acoustic phonetics. The process, how we produce speech sound, and what are all the various physical aspects, physiological aspects that happen when it gets transmitted. That is analyzed under this head, under this branch of phonetics, acoustic phonetics. So now we have seen all the three branches of phonetics. Now we'll move on to the second part of this topic, that is phonology. As I have said, we will see what is meant by phonology, and more importantly, what is the basic difference between phonetics and phonology. So that is very, very important. Students generally tend to get confused with this minor aspect. So the difference is also very small only. So one basic aspect only differentiates this phonetics and phonology. What is that? We'll see now. Phonology is a broader study of major speech sounds and their organization in a particular language. This needs to be underlined, in a particular language. So this is also again a broader study of speech sounds. Like phonetics, this is also again studies about speech sounds, but in a particular language. That is very, very. Now we will see the difference between phonetics and phonology. So this difference between phonetics and phonology is that of generality and particularity. Generality and particularity. One, phonetics is general and phonology is particular. So that is what I have mentioned. The difference between phonetics and phonology is very small. So phonetics deals in a general aspect, whereas phonology in a particular way it deals in a particular way. So if you read the explanation, we can understand it. Phonetics deals with production, transmission, and reception of all human speech sounds in general, with no particular reference to any one language. So it analyzes any language. It doesn't restrict to English, Tamil, Arabic. No, there is no such restriction. It deals with any language in general. That is like phonetics, generality, phonology, particularity, right? So if it doesn't restrict to any one particular language, that study is said to be phonetics. So phonetics deals with the production, transmission, and reception of all human sounds in general, with no particular reference to any one language. So if you study about any language, see for instance, under phonetics, various languages are being analyzed. Arabic, Italian, Mexican. So that study is called as phonetics. So moving on to phonology. Phonology deals with the ways those sounds, those speech sounds are produced or organized in a particular language. If you are talking about the speech sounds of English alone, then we should say we are studying phonology of English. So if it is restricted to one particular language, if it studies one particular language speech sounds, how it has been organized, how it has been produced, if it studies one particular language, if it is restricted to one particular language, then that study is said to be phonology. That is why we can call this study to be a subcategory of phonetics. Since phonetics deals in generality about all the languages, all language speech sounds, phonology restricts it to one particular language. That is why today we are going to see English speech sound, that is the phonology of English sounds. So after analyzing various aspects like phonetics, phonology, the three broad branches of phonetics, the major difference between phonetics and phonology, an important aspect should be understood. That is the importance of studying phonetics. whenever we learn something, we should also know what is the importance, what is the reason, why we are learning all these things. So the importance of the study of phonetics follows as follows. And knowledge of phonetics is a must for a learner of the English language. This knowledge enables him or her. So it is said to be must if you are going to learn any one particular language. This knowledge of phonetics and phonology is must because it enables to give a true description of sounds of English. So how these speech sounds are produced by the native speaker. So the true description, only when you study this subject, phonetics and phonology, only then we can understand, only then we'll come to know sounds of English and how they are made. What are the various, see, if you use the different way, the speech sound may differ. Say for instance, if instead of touching the roof of the mouth, it is lowered, the similar sound might not be produced as it is produced by the native speaker. That is why stress is being given, more stress is given on this topic, phonetics and phonology, the true description of sound of English and how those sounds are made. Only if you understand these topics, phonetics, we can know this. The second point is that to point out the mistakes of the learner's pronunciation and help them learn the correct form. So only a person who is in the teaching field or a person who is in the level of teaching something, he should first point out the mistakes. First of all, he should know the right pronunciation, the right way of producing sounds. And on the other hand, he should be, or he or she should be in the position to correct the mistakes the learners are doing. So only if he knows, he will also do the same. He will also use it in the right way and make the others also to use it in the right way. And finally, to differentiate sounds of English from those of the mother tongue. This is very, very important. Certain sounds we might not have in our mother tongue or we might not have in English. So it is very, very important that you should know to differentiate between the sounds. Say for instance, we have a and a in Tamil. But when it comes to English, there are 7 to 8 different forms of by producing the sound, by opening the mouth, by closing the mouth, by producing the sound from various organs, the sounds are are produced in a different way. So this differentiation, this sound differentiation, one must be aware of. One cannot use the same sound that are available in their mother tongue. Then it is not said to be speaking English. So one must know the right sound and we should use the right sound in the right place. So this is what I have mentioned when I was explaining phonetics and phonology. That too, when I was talking about the various organs that are involved while producing the speech sounds. So generally, whenever I ask this question or put the question in the classroom, students tend to come out with the answer. The organs that are involved in producing the speech sounds or organs that are involved in speaking, generally people would say lips, mouth, and tongue. It is not so. This picture very clearly states what are all the other organs, both external and also internal organs that are involved while producing the speech sounds. So externally, as I have said, lips, tongue, overall the mouth. But people generally forget about teeth. It is very, very important. That is why elderly people who have lost their teeth, they may not be in a position to produce the sounds in the right way because of the gap in the teeth. So even teeth, they are also very, very important. So if you would have listened to this lecture carefully, I have mentioned about nose in the production of sweet sounds. People may wonder, we only breathe using our nose, we smell using our nose, generally we think in that way, but even in producing certain particular sounds, we use nose. We close our mouth completely or partially in producing certain sounds. So those sounds, they are known as nasal sounds since they are produced using our nose. So even nose is also used. That is why this nasal cavity has been marked. Okay. So apart from that, the vocal cords, the larynx, that is very, very important. The vocal cord. So from there only air is getting produced and it passes through various organs, whether it is getting obstructed, whether it is flowed freely, whether it is partially closed, completely open. Based on all these things, sounds, different sounds are getting produced. So vocal cords are also important. This alveolar ridge, see, students can try this. See, they can use their tongue and try to touch the upper roof of the mouth. So near the teeth, we can find a hard surface, the hard surface. You can touch and feel. So that portion is known as hard palate. So if you try to bend the tongue and try to touch the lower portion, that is upper mouth's inner portion, it would be somewhat softer compared to the other portion. So that is known as soft palate. So even these hard palate and soft palate also help us in producing sweet sounds. So that has been mentioned as palate. The oral cavity, the space, the velum, the root, everything. All these organs help us in producing sweet sounds. So I suggest students to have a look into this picture, that is all articulating organs, and make oneself clear. So we should know about our body, and we are producing sounds from using, that is using various organs of our body. So we should also know what are all the organs that are involved by producing certain sounds. We'll see in detail how these sounds are produced. That is, when we close our mouth and through small opening, we produce certain sounds. For vowels, we generally open our mouth. Certain sounds, as I said, using our nose, we produce them. So all these information, so based on these information, those letters have been given the names also, like bilabial, labiodental. So we will see that in a different presentation. So that also will help you to understand how these sounds are produced. Say for instance, the sound. So we more or less 90% of the mouth is closed. The airflow which is coming from the vocal cord, it's passing through a very narrow space that is by creating a hissing sound. So we will see that is a detailed analysis of all the speech sounds, how they have been named in the next presentation. Now we will see the broader classification of English speech sounds. So we now have become very clear about the heading phonetics and phonology, the study of speech sounds, their various branches, 3 branches, the differentiation, and also various organs that are involved, how or why we should know about this topic, why one should know about phonetics, everything we have seen. Now it's time for us to know the classification, the broader classification of English speech sounds. Generally, this you would have studied in your school days itself. See, all these consonants have been, alphabets have been divided into two categories. And this English speech language sounds are classified into two main streams. They are consonants and vowels, right? So they will start with this. You might have been told that A, E, I, O, U, all these letters are vowels. And apart from these letters, all the other letters are consonants. But we are going to study in detail not the letters, not the alphabets. Instead, as we have said, phonetics deals with the speech sounds. So we are going to study the various sounds which could be categorized as consonants and vowels. So when we talk about vowels, we can even classify them into two categories, that is monophthongs and diphthongs, that is pure vowels and diphthongs. So these pure vowels, they have, that is in that word, in between two consonants, you will have only one vowel sound. But when it comes to diphthong, it is the combination of two vowel sounds. It is not a pure vowel, it is the combination of two vowels. So all these details we will see in the next class. So the broader classification, vowels and consonants. A consonant, what do you mean by consonant? That we'll see. A consonant is a sound that is articulated with complete or partial close of the air stream by constriction of speech organs. So there are some 24 consonant sounds in English. It doesn't mean the alphabet. It means always the sound. 24 sounds in consonant sounds in English. So when the air is sound that is articulated with complete or partial closure, the air stream by constriction. So with restriction, if the sound is produced, they are known as consonants. So you can easily understand if there is no obstruction, if the airflow is freely flow, then the production of such sounds are known as vowels. And now the classification and description of consonants. Consonants are sounds produced with an aggression, that is, of speech sound produced using the normal outward flow of air stream, the flow of air coming out of the mouth or the nose, accompanied by obstruction or friction in the articulation. If there is obstruction or friction and the sounds are produced with by this method, those sounds, those 24 speech sounds, are known as consonants in English. So we'll now see how consonants can be classified on the basis of number 1, airstream mechanism. Number 2, the state of the glottis. That is the part of the larynx. When I have shown you the picture, you might have seen that is the vocal cord, consisting of the vocal cord and the opening between them. It affects voice modulation through expansion or contraction, the position of the soft palate. These are all put together known as state of the glottis. How, number 1, how the airstream mechanism acts. Number 2, the position or the state of the glottis. And number 3, points of articulation. What are all the various points the sound is getting articulated? So that is the third point. And finally, how it is getting articulated. That is the manner of articulation. How these sounds are articulated. What are all the points it is getting articulated? How it is getting articulated? Number one, the airstream mechanism and the state of glottis. So with this, we'll end this session. And in the forthcoming session, as I have mentioned earlier, we will see the various sounds that are produced using abstraction, without abstraction, how they have been named, and also diphthongs, vowels in detail. Hope you have enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much.